Does changing my name in the naturalization process slow down my case? Hi, I'm Jim Hacking, immigration lawyer practicing law throughout the United States at our office here in St. Louis, Missouri. Today's question comes from my man Mohammed. Now, Mohammed is a longtime client of ours, actually, and he, I know for a fact, just had his interview for naturalization just last week with one of our attorneys, and everything went well, so congratulations to Mohammed. But generally, he had a question. If you ask to change your name during the naturalization process, will that slow your case down? Now, I like this question, number one, because it's from one of my favorite clients, and number two, because it raises an interesting issue. Now, one thing you need to know about the naturalization process is that different jurisdictions have different rules. And what I mean by that, well, if you live in certain areas, I know for a fact Minneapolis and Atlanta, let's say, those are very busy immigration offices. And if you meet all the requirements for naturalization, they have what's called administrative naturalization, where an officer will naturalize you that day. So they do all their naturalization interviews in the morning, and then they have a little ceremony for whoever passed. They have you come back maybe after lunch and have a little group ceremony, and it's sort of informal, it's sort of quick, and it's not what I would say is nice as some of the federal court naturalization processes. And so what do I mean by that? Well, of course, in the old days, only federal judges could naturalize people to be U.S. citizens. Now they've given some of that authority to USCIS, and like I said, to conduct those administrative naturalization ceremonies. But for most people, in most jurisdictions, and including in many of the ones that we practice in, Chicago, St. Louis, and those, you're going to actually have a ceremony with a federal judge. So federal judges will do a ceremony usually on a Friday. They'll have a bunch of people who've been approved for citizenship appear before them, and they'll do a big bulk ceremony. Now, the one thing is if you want, so I bring all that up because, to get back to Muhammad's question about the name change, if anybody wants to change their name, even if they live in one of those administrative naturalization ceremony cities, the USCIS doesn't have the authority to change the name. So those cases actually do have to go to a federal judge. And so that's one way that changing your name can lead your case to take longer. If you live in one of those cities where it's administrative naturalization, then you would be delayed because you'd have to wait for an actual federal judge hearing. And if most cases are administratively naturalized, they might not have that many ceremonies. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is that you, by changing your name, sometimes, especially for my Muslim clients, if they want to change their name to another Muslim name, number one, USCIS gets a little suspicious of that, and I've actually seen, number two, them do background checks or claim to do background checks on the new name. So that's an interesting little side bit, is that we often see if you change your name, that does lead to delay because they think they need to do a background check on that new name. Now, we haven't seen that come up a lot, but it does come up from time to time, and all this reminds me of when one of my favorite name change stories, which I have a client who I get a big kick out of. He's a real character, and he told the immigration officer that he wanted to change his name to John Connor. And the officer smiled. He looked at me, he looked at the client, he looked at me, and he said, "Are you a fan of the Terminator?" And the guy said, "Yeah, I am a fan of the Terminator." So he'd actually gotten his name that he wanted to change his name to from the movie The Terminator, and the main character who actually fights the Terminator, John Connor. So that has always made me laugh when I think about that story, and that's a funny name change story. But generally, in regards to Muhammad's question, yeah, you're going to probably slow down your case a little bit if you do your name change. Now, I don't think it's a reason to not change your name. I think becoming a U.S. citizen is the best time to change your name. But one last thing with name changes is that sometimes it causes people difficulties with creditors and whatever because their whole history is in another name. And I've actually had two clients who changed their name during the naturalization process, who then later on, years later, asked me to file an action for them in court to change their name back to their old name. So, and that overrides and confuses people again. So don't be doing that. Make sure that if you're going to change your name that you have a good reason why and you understand why you're doing it. We hope you found this video helpful. If you did, give us a call at 314-961-8200. You can email us at info@hackinglawpractice.com. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and share this out on social whenever you can. And join us in our Facebook group, which is called Immigrant Home. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.